What's up, everybody? Welcome. Shout out to all the people around the world doing their thing. Shout out to all the people who are here today in person. We're doing one live and from in person from where it happened. Whoa, definitely not showing you guys in the actual video that I put on YouTube. So there's creeps out there. All right, no. So welcome. We're gonna do I'm probably gonna do just the scientific revolution today. And then maybe in the next one, like I'll split the Age of Reason up into 2 videos because we don't have a ton of time in here today. So for those of you who are watching this, which is none of you, those of you who are watching this on YouTube, those that came today, we just went over all the stuff that's on the super awesome website that I spent just countless hours that I could have been spending earning an additional income, bettering myself personally, or spending time with my family. But instead, I spent that time building this incredible resource website just full of a variety of things that will pretty much guarantee you get a perfect score. And no one uses it. So, I'm not bitter about that. But we just went, for the people that are here in person, we just went over it. I suggest that you take a look at it. One of the things that's on there that's new is the practice test. I put 3 full practice tests on there. So you can check that out if you're so inclined. Today, the next 2 videos, I'm probably going to break it up into 2 parts. The next 2 videos, we're going to be talking about the Age of Reason, which is the banner that I'll put the Enlightenment and the Scientific Revolution under. So today, I'll probably do a quick one just on the Scientific Revolution. And then the next video, which I'll probably do Monday or Tuesday of next week, will be on the Enlightenment. So let's jump right in and talk about the scientific revolution. Marley, give me one fun fact that you recall about the scientific revolution. You're on the spot.
Is it the thing where they like...
God help us all. That's how you're starting off. It's March 27th. The exam is like the first week of May. We're doomed. If that's the spot that you're in, we just cancel. See if you, I don't know if you can get a refund for the exam, but if you can,
I wasn't done talking.
Do it. I'm going to get fired. If the scores can continue to go down, I will be replaced. Okay. If you're not going to do it for yourselves, if you're not going to do it for your potential college career, if you're not going to even do it for your parents, do it for me. Don't even do it for me. Do it for my son, who desperately needs to eat. And when I lose my job because these scores continue to plummet, he will be starving.
Heliocentric model.
Start a GoFundMe for Benjamin. All right, heliocentric model. That's good. What is it?
They were focused on finding out the truth.
Yes.
Yes. See,
All right.
that.
Let's do it. Scientific revolution. Here's the deal. Before the scientific revolution, there really is no science, right? The term science wouldn't have been used. We would have called it a couple of different things. We would have called it alchemy would be one. We would have called it, alchemy, medicine, or not medicine, alchemy, a variety of different things, really even philosophy. Some of what we call, what we would refer to as science today would have been, like talking about things using logic science. So it's during the Renaissance that we start to pivot into what will become science, right? And so it's during the Renaissance that we get some new things like the study of medicine, right? We also get the study of astronomy. Okay, and those 2 things are going to be take a quantum leap during the scientific revolution as a result of the scientific revolution, but they're going to be influential in it. And also the development of reason, which comes out of the humanism of the Renaissance. And for those who are completely ignorant, astronomy is the study of the physical universe.
Did they discover the moon now?
Just a massive refund at this point. Let's just tie a bow on it. That's why I don't do them live. From ancient Greece until about the scientific revolution, the prevailing and accepted view of the universe, this is where we get into this. is the first thing we start with the scientific revolution is really like an understanding of the universe. In ancient Greece, till the scientific revolution, the accepted understanding of the universe is what's called the geocentric model. Okay, this is the belief that the Earth is the center of the universe, so that there's other stuff in the universe and it revolves around the Earth. Okay, everything, including the sun, moves around the Earth. All right, now this is developed by a guy in ancient Greece by the name of, anybody know? Ptolemy. Okay, and if you think about it, right, at the time of when they're in ancient Greece, right, they don't have any method of testing or understanding the world really other than observation with the naked eye. So if you think about it, if you're just a dude and you're looking at the sky, right, you could understand how pretty easily you would come to the conclusion that everything revolves around the Earth, because as far as you're concerned, right, when you look at the sky, right, everything seems to be moving around us. And so Ptolemy comes up with this. He's like, Earth's center of the universe, geocentric theory. And everyone goes, sounds pretty good. And then when we get the rise of the Catholic Church and the dominance of the Catholic Church, they're going to co-sign this model. And they're going to go, yeah, he's right. That's 100% what's going on. Why do you think the Catholic Church would be so eager to greenlight this understanding of the universe? Yeah, it fits in with what the Bible says, right? Both in kind of like the picture that the Bible paints of the world and the universe, and also like actual written scripture, right? I just realized, what's that say? Smythe eats Europeans and communists. Okay, well, it's not entirely inaccurate. So the church signs off on this, and this is a big deal. And that's part of what'll make this like basically the established dogma as far as the universe is concerned for several generations, right? Centuries. Right? And it becomes a big deal because the fact that the church signs off on it, which initially is like, makes it legit, it becomes problematic because once the church signs off on it, it's not just a theory that a bunch of people believe or an idea that some dude in ancient Greece had. This is the church said this. And the church is the ruling authority, right? By this point. So like they said, this is the way that it is. That means that's the way that it is. And if you question that, you're questioning the church, and therefore you're questioning God, and then you're a heretic and you worship the devil and you need to be burned. So that makes like new scientific theories a little bit problematic, particularly when we're talking about the universe. So where does this start? It starts with astronomy and a guy by the name of Nicholas Copernicus. And Copernicus, there's two types of people that change the world, whether it's world history, American history, European history, right? Nerds and tough guys. The next three are nerds, okay? Copernicus is a big nerd, and he is this guy that's going to use complex math and complex mathematical equations to challenge the geometric theory. So basically, Copernicus is a guy who's like, hey, I did some math, and that doesn't add up. Now, I'm not in any way, shape, or form qualified to understand how you could prove that the Earth is not the center of the universe using math. I don't understand how that's even possible, okay? Because I can't even do multiplication in my head. But apparently you can use complex math and point to numbers and go, it's the sun, right? So Copernicus does that. And he's the first person by using math to point to what will become known as the heliocentric theory, which is the theory that the sun, not the Earth, is the center of the universe, and everything else, including the Earth, is moving around the sun. And so he's this nerd, and he's like, look, math. And he figured that the reason the sun looks like it's rising and setting is because the Earth is rotating around it. All right, so that's Copernicus. Now, when Copernicus said this, everyone's like, shut up, nerd. And he's like, math. And I'm like, whatever, you're a loser. And then the church is like, yo, bro, you better calm down. Right? And they're going to start by kind of ignoring these dudes and banning the books that they write. Right? And this is a problem for the church. And we'll talk more about why in a second. The next guy is Johannes Kepler. Kepler is a guy who takes Copernicus's math and like does more math. I don't understand math, so this probably makes sense to you if you're a smart person who does math. But he does more math and he's like, oh, look, Copernicus is right. Like I checked his answers and his work and it seems like it's right. And here I did more problems. And it's looking like he's right. I just, this doesn't make sense to me. Like, if you do math, like, don't you just do one problem and it's either right or it's wrong?
No, they probably took like orbits. Like the planets, like if you think about Jupiter, like think about the sun. If the sun is orbiting the earth, it should always do the same thing.
Yeah, but how are you doing that with math?
It's time.
I'm out. I'm done. So Kepler, I don't even know what you're talking about. Kepler, he does more math and he's like, oh, Copernicus is right. And one thing that Kepler also adds to Copernicus is that the planets are not circling the sun in perfect circles, that they're doing it in ellipses, which, today we believe is accurate, right? So that also makes Copernicus's theory like hold more water, like make more sense, right? Because before it's like, well, hold on, this doesn't really add up if it's circles. And then Kepler's like, nah, it's not circles, bro. It's like ovals. And everyone's like, oh, damn. Now, there are nerds because they're using math. So it's easy to ignore nerds. And then this dude comes around, Galileo. And he's still a nerd, but he's not as nerdy as the other two. And this is where the church and everyone freaks out. Okay, and you can kind of imagine why. So we got Copernicus and Kepler like math, and everyone's like, shut up, nerds. And then Galileo comes around and he has a telescope. Now, he does not invent the telescope. Like many things throughout European history, he's just the first European dude to do this thing in Europe. The telescope has existed amongst Arabs throughout the Middle East, in China, right? And he sees it and then like basically builds one in Europe. And he's like, look, a telescope. And everyone's like, oh my God, you invented the telescope. And some people are like, well, they've had it in China for a while. And they're like, yeah, that doesn't count. So he does get some people will say like he invented the telescope. He didn't. But he's the first dude in Europe to use a telescope, and he uses it and he's like, hey, look, see, based off what I'm seeing with my telescope, there's no way that the earth is the center of the universe. And now all of a sudden the church is going to freak out. And a lot of people are going to listen because they're like, all right, this dude's a nerd, but like he's not doing nerd stuff with math, which obviously like who even understands that stuff? This dude's seeing it. And so the church freaks out and they're like, yo, dude, hard stop. Okay, that's not the way that it is. And I always picture the church in these situations like the mafia, like when they come in, they're like, hey, Galileo, take a seat. Like the Pope smoking a cigarette. Like, listen, we heard that you're pushing the idea that the universe revolves around the sun. That's not what we said. And Galileo's like, I saw it. And they're like, no, you think you saw it, but you didn't. Right. And he's like, here, look at my telescope. And then the church takes it and they like break it. And they're like, oh, look through what? And then he's like, no, I'm pretty sure I saw it in the sun's center universe. And they're like, it would be a shame if you caught fire while being tied to a big like tree trunk because you worship the devil. Right. Or you could just say you didn't see what you said you saw. Right. And so that's where it becomes a big problem, right? He observed and detailed movements of the planets, proving Kepler and Copernicus. Church freaks out. Why do you think they freaked out? Because they really care about the universe? No, it's power, right? Because all of this is based on the understanding that the church interprets the scriptures and they understand and they speak to God, and so they understand the way the universe works. If one thing that they say and have said for a long time has been wrong this whole time, it begs the question amongst everyone, what else are you wrong about? Like maybe we should look into everything else. So the church can't be wrong about anything, even something as small as this. And so they basically call up Galileo and they're like, listen, bro, this is also happening during the Reformation. So it's not good. They're in full panic mode. And so they call up Galileo and they're like, yo, cuz, you got two choices. You can take it back or, see what happens, like the mob, like, we're not going to say we're going to kill you, but you might have an accident and trip and fall and light yourself on fire for worshiping the devil. And so Galileo will recant his work. And it's like, sadly enough, like he's like, I take it all back. I made it all up. I lied. And they're like, cool. They still put him on house arrest, which is crazy that the church had that kind of power. Like you can't leave your house. And then he did it for the rest of his life, which is horrible. Like he took it all back and he still lost. So he regretted it until he died. And he said, like, I wish I would have stayed strong or whatever. And the other sad part is like one of the easy things that people get wrong about the Enlightenment and this really scientific revolution is, especially scientific revolution, is that these nerds are doing science because they're not with religion and they're trying to like disprove religion and get rid of it. That is not true, right? Galileo, Copernicus, and Kepler are all devout Catholics. In fact, a lot of these science nerds try to use science to prove religion. Like they try and use science to prove the existence of God. Doesn't really work out well. But the point with that is they're not getting into this science game to like prove that God isn't real and the church is a lie and all of this, right? They're still very religious people. So that's astronomy. Medicine, let's talk about medicine. Okay. Another thing that the ancient Greeks thought they figured out was the human body. And the ancient Greek understanding of the human body is pretty disgusting. But like astronomy, like the Greeks made a decision and then everyone just kind of ran with that for centuries until the scientific revolution. And so during ancient Greece, in ancient Greece, there's a guy by the name of let me back up because I was equating him in ancient Greece. It's not. So ancient Greeks, they come up with a lot of understanding of the body. Now, there's a big change during the Middle Ages by a guy by the name of Galen. And I don't remember his full name, but it's Galen. Is not really in the AP Euro thing. So you can mention him as prior to this. So Galen's this guy's a doctor in the Middle Ages, and he comes up with the humoral theory, which is something that's good to have in your back pocket, of the body, which said that the body is comprised of 4 types of substances: blood, yellow bile, black bile, and phlegm. That's what you got inside. And that if you're sick, or the difference between a healthy body and a sick body is an imbalance of those 4 substances. So like if you have too much blood, like you could be sick and it's like, maybe you got too much blood. We got to get some out. And so like bloodletting's a thing. It's like, maybe you just got to bleed for a little. And they would like cut you and like, you'll feel better. As we know now, it's probably not gonna make you feel better. Right. And so that's how people got sick. Is like you had an imbalance. You got too much bile, you got too much blood, blah, 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 blah. Obviously, that's not 100% anywhere near. I don't even know if like is there different color biles? I don't know. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I don't think black bile is something you naturally have in your body. I think that's if that's coming out, something's going horribly awry. Yeah. Yeah. So now that's where we get this guy by the name of Paracelsus. I think that's how you say his name. It's not Pericles. Yeah. Paracelsus. Okay, Paracelsus. That's what I said. He's a guy that comes around during the scientific revolution, and he's gonna do research with the human body. He's gonna use some of the new scientific equipment, scientific theories, or not scientific method necessarily yet, but he is going to reject the humoral theory, and he's going to come up with an idea. Listen to this. This is crazy. That disease and illness is the result of chemical imbalances in the body. Crazy, right? Chemical imbalances in the body. And here's the kicker. If disease and illness is the result of chemical imbalances in the body, then you can make people healthy or improve their health by what? Well, we don't really know what medicine is yet, but by introducing chemicals or medicine. So he kind of creates this whole theory, and that's called chemical imbalances. And then another big development in medicine during the scientific revolution is done by a guy by the name of William Harvey, and he discovers the circulatory system, which basically proves Paracelsus, or whatever that dude's name is, his theory. So he's saying, like, I think chemical imbalances is why people get sick. And then Harvey later discovers the circulatory system, and he's like, wait, that's definitely probably what it is, right? And so that changes medicine, right? Then we get new methods of reason, or what we'll call like basically the scientific revolution. right? And there's two big names with that. The first one is Francis Bacon, probably the easiest name in all of European history to remember. And Francis Bacon is a guy that comes up with the whole concept of inductive reasoning. And this is the idea that if you have a question about something, something scientific, that you should start with the most specific aspect of the question or the what's called discrete knowledge, and then expand on that through observation, experimentation, and the application of reason towards general principles. So in other words, Bacon is like you start off specific and then you apply that specific finding in a general sense. Okay? Right? So I'm trying to think of like an example. If I'm like, why do bees buzz? And then I find out, I don't know. That was going in the wrong direction.
I can't turn my sheet in front of my hand. I'm right-handed. Most people are right-handed.
Okay, good. Perfect. That should work. All right. Now, the other guy is by the name of Rene Descartes, or Descartes. And he is going to develop a theory, basically the opposite, which is called deductive reasoning. And deductive reasoning, the opposite of Bacon, is where you start with general principles. And through the work of observation, experimentation, and the application of reason, you then come to discrete knowledge.
Pardon the interruption. At this time, anyone who has borrowed a laptop, please.
Discrete knowledge. And both of them are major players in developing what will become known as modern science or the scientific method. The scientific method is a formal process of having a question and then doing experiment, observation, and the application of reason to reach a conclusion. And the big thing with the scientific method, besides the fact that it's a formal process for essentially getting to truth, is why it's so groundbreaking is two reasons. One, it shows everyone that there are objective truths that are provable and the benefit to that. Because pre-scientific revolution, if you had a question about the world, you're like, why is the sky blue? And then you would go to your local church and your priest would go, the sky's blue because God cries. And you went, okay. And then you were like, yo, did you know the sky's blue because God cries? And they were like, how do you know that? The priest told me. He reads the Bible. And you couldn't question that because you didn't read anything, you couldn't read, and there was nothing to read anyway. And you just assumed that the priest is getting this information from God because he talks to God and stuff like that. But what the scientific revolution points out is like, hey, does it make sense that we're basing all of our decisions and understanding of the world on things that just are told to us by some guy? What if there was a way to test it and everything should be testable and provable by anyone? Like if you follow these steps, you will get this result. And that's how we know it's true. Because if you don't believe it, do this and you'll see. And so it is the discovery of objective truth, right? And the process by which you get to it. And so it changes everyone's thinking where it's like, oh, wait, maybe there are things that we just know are true because we can, prove it. Shouldn't we try and do that with everything? Like maybe it's not a good idea that our understanding of everything and the way what we're basing all these decisions on is just what some guy's telling us, right? And this is also, this is coming about in conjunction with the printing press, and this is after the Renaissance, and so there's been some shifts that either support this new way of looking at the world, or already people are predisposed to it. And so this allows evidence research and or data to lead to one of their conclusions on a working or free basis. So we get some early scientists a lot of the early scientists are deeply religious despite working to develop a new approach or understanding to the physical world free from theology. The other thing that's big with the scientific method, if you took like any kind of science in middle school, is you're supposed to divorce yourself from like a conclusion. Right? When you do the scientific method, you go wherever the evidence leads you. So it's like, I'm not trying to prove that this is the answer. It's I'm searching for what is true. And that's a new idea, right? Because historically, like, it's like, oh, well, we're trying to prove that the sky's blue because God cries. And it's like, you just look for things that reinforce that. And, that's not how you get to truth. So what are many of them attempted to prove theology through the use of their experiments. We talked about that. Persistent beliefs. So what are some things that continue during and even after the scientific revolution? Astrology is still big, right? The other misconception is that when the scientific revolution like happens, all this other wacky stuff just stops. Not true. All right. Astrology is going to continue throughout and way after the scientific revolution. And for those of you who don't know, astrology is the study of how the position of heavenly bodies influence human events. That's the thing where it's like, you're a Virgo. And so today, I don't know. Anybody check their, what's that called? Yeah. Anybody check their horoscope today? You're a Libra? That makes sense. The other one is alchemy will continue, which is a pseudoscience that attempted to turn certain metals into gold. All right. So that's pretty much the scientific revolution for now. In the next video I'll do either next Monday or Tuesday will be on the Enlightenment. So that's it.
Yes.
No. Love you guys. See you on the next one. Keep on keeping on.